Hello, everybody. On May the 1st, the Ontario Federation of Labour will be gathering at the Kitchener Courthouse to protest the Doug Ford government, and I'll be there. The issues that I'm concerned about, I want greater support for teachers, greater support for nurses and long-term care workers, and frontline workers. We have an issue of lack of living wage regarding minimum wage. We should be paying at least $20 an hour to allow folks the opportunity to pay for both rent and food. We have long-term care workers who didn't have full-time jobs, working in multiple jobs and going from facility to facility, which made COVID worse. Disability should not equal poverty. A lot of disabled people are stuck in the retirement home system. They have to abide by the retirement home rules. So they may have an 8 o'clock curfew regardless of their age. They may be eating the same diet as people with no teeth, regardless of their medical condition. They deserve a life of dignity in a facility that allows them the opportunity to live as fully as they can, a decent quality of life. We have people who are working part-time jobs who will be losing pay if they take sick leave, which is unreasonable, okay? Because it's the right thing to do to take off sick leave to protect the public and to protect themselves and to protect their families. Why we penalize people for that, I have no idea. It goes against the values and common sense. We need to stop the privatization of long-term care facilities and retirement residences. My father had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and was placed in a facility that went bankrupt to the tune of $26 million. And when the COVID lockdown happened, he did not receive the proper care and suffered a failure to thrive issue. And I can't bring it to myself to blame the staff because they were understaffed and not trained to handle the condition he had. It was the only option we had because he was falling in our home. He was breaking bones in our house because he could not manage the stairs. He was wandering at night and leaning on furniture and hurting himself. And there are people dying, too many. Over 4,000 elderly people have died in Ontario. And meanwhile, the oligarchy of Canada is raking in profits like record amounts. And the system is one of nepotism and corruption and collusion. The Doug Ford administration appointed friends and family in areas of responsibility. And we have conflicts of interest with our finance minister going to St. Barth's, the same place as mobsters belonging to Russia. Roman Abramovich there. What was our Ontario finance minister doing there? Rod Phillips. Same guy worked for Post Media. Same guy worked at Affinity with Prince Andrew's daughter, Beatrice, in supposedly AI tech, which is probably nothing more than insider info. How dare we deal with this kind of corruption in Canada? Boris Burstein, a known guy linked to the Russian mob. His solicitors, Doug Ford's family solicitor, Gavin Ty. We had Trump do a scheme for a Trump Tower in Toronto. They made money losing money because Canada's system is one of tax evasion. Because we hide beneficiaries here. We draw in international criminals. Enbridge's pipeline maker was Roman Abramovich, who owned Evraz. Our tax dollars are funding these criminals because we lack tax law. Canada has been using Jersey fiefdoms as a legal loophole. First Nations, they have casinos, even though the provincial laws don't apply on the federal lands they live on. So these casinos are involved with money laundering and human trafficking in areas where the crimes take place. Marginalized women put at risk because of it. We wonder why women on First Nations Reserve are going missing and murdered. Meanwhile, we invite crime to take place on those lands through the systems we have. This government has failed to act, has failed to protect, has failed to have regard for treaty rights. Our aggregate maps don't even have Six Nations on it, let alone the Haldeman Tract. All of Waterloo Region's built on the Haldeman Tract. There's never been any kind of reconciliation or intention to compensate the people fully for the damages and the stolen lands. We have people going in a water crisis in Tynandaga and in Six Nations and the Grassy Narrows. This isn't an abstract issue. This is water in Canada. Communities are lacking water. It's a human right. It should be. And why are they still begging Ontario for help? They deserve better. We need to protect human lives with equity. COVID has been affecting Black communities and marginalized communities and poor communities throughout Canada. Indigenous communities hit hard. We need to own it. We need to admit the fact that Canada's roots were racist, and we need to make amends. We need to stop that racism from continuing. People have marched to demand it in Waterloo. Over 20,000 marched in Kitchener for Black Lives Matter. And they didn't do it because we don't have a problem. They did it because we do have a problem and it needs to be addressed. We have a problem with policing when more Black people are shot than any other demographic in downtown Toronto. We have to own it. And we have to move beyond it. It takes responsible government to do it. And I don't trust Doug Ford to have that. That's why I'm gathering with Ontario Federation of Labour on May the 1st. Because I believe that human rights need to be honored. I believe treaties need to be honored. I value our Black community and I want them equally protected by police, safely as the rest of us are, without fear of racism or getting shot. We need to stop the racism, and we need a harmonized tax justice system to do it. One that applies to First Nations, one that applies on the Jersey fiefdom, one that applies on Canadian lands, which are stolen lands of Indigenous people. That's why we need to get back to reconciliation. It's the only way to harmonize the tax law so that we stop corruption before it starts. Right now, Doug Ford has a government that is withholding the information from Six Nations about the Mohawk Institute. They have the school records, they have the sanatorium records, they have the death certificates, and they still haven't handed them off to Six Nations. It is Six Nations property. It is their nation that deserves those records. Ontario should not hold that. If the government of Canada is serious about reconciliation, give all that back to Six Nations for them to heal. Truth and reconciliation requires truth first. We need to have respect for the people whose lands we live on. It's time. I am going to the courthouse on May the 1st. And I want Doug Ford voted out because it's time. And I hope you'll be there too. I hope you will stand with me united on this because we have to work together to advance a just society. Climate justice and social justice are needed to advance us all. Please be there May the 1st. Thank you.